Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I would like to thank Tatiana Grant and Nicole Perry for being here as we discuss banking compliance. This webinar will be recorded and added to our MICI YouTube channel for reference. And right now, I'd like to hand it off to Nicole Perry.
Thank you, Isaiah, and thank you for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss banking with everybody and the high levels of compliance associated with banking cannabis. I'd like to first start off with a little bit of information on myself. I have been in financial services for over 20 years. I am from the greater Lansing area and went to high school at East Lansing High School. A shout out to the class of 2000. There's a lot of us in the industry, so it's very exciting. But my school had a credit union in it, and I did co-op through there, and I really enjoyed my experience. So after college, I went back into banking, where I've held almost every position you could hold in a bank, and I also wholesaled annuities for a very large insurance company. And I have credentials related to cannabis. I am a certified cannabis banking professional. So the value I can offer all around is quite high, which comes in handy to a lot of the people that I talk to. Like I said, I am from the greater Lansing area and have lived in various states, but eventually made my way back to Lansing about 8 years ago, where I met my husband, and I'm clearly now a Michigan State fan. Go Green. I have worked at Dart Bank since 2016, where I was given the opportunity a few years ago to run our cannabis banking program. And I, of course, could not turn that down, because when am I going to ever get an opportunity to be in an industry like this ever again? I probably wouldn't. So I'm very proud to be in this industry, and myself and Dart Bank and the rest of our team are very proud to support this industry as well. Back in 2018, we saw a niche for this area and decided that we were going to get into it. We did all of the due diligence we needed to do. Our chief risk officer, president, and CEO went straight to the FDIC when we decided we wanted to get into cannabis banking. And we had a business plan, and we presented it to them. We worked very closely with the state of Michigan, as well as visiting the Federal Reserve in both Chicago and Detroit, to make sure that our program was very steadfast and strong. And we've again been going strong ever since, passing all of our internal audits with flying colors. And it's a really great thing that we've been able to create a name for ourselves in this industry as not just a cannabis banking program, but also a compliant program. Dart Bank has been around for about 100 years, and we are proud to support members of our community, and not just the traditional business side, but also cannabis. So one of the biggest things about our program is compliance. Anybody who's in this industry is aware of the many compliance obstacles and hurdles that are involved in getting involved in cannabis, and that also includes banking. I know a lot of times a lot of our customers and a lot of people who aren't our customers and just in the industry have lots of questions regarding the compliance aspect of banking cannabis. And it's just very important that we collect as much information as we possibly can, so that we can understand everything that our businesses that we work with are doing, because our federal regulators do ask, and they do want to know that we are making sure to monitor everything. So when your bankers, regardless if it's Dart Bank or another financial institution supporting the industry, asks you questions, asks for invoices, anything like that, that we're not doing it to cause chaos for you. It's so that we can paint a picture to make everything coincide together. We ask for invoices a lot to prove that funds are being used for cannabis associated aspects of the business, because there are some people out there who aren't doing it the right way. And it's just important for us to be able to follow the compliant regulations. And I know I say compliance a lot, but it's because it takes up a lot of our program. We do have specific compliance software that we utilize. They're a great partner and a nationwide company. They're called Shield, and they're actually Metric's preferred banking compliance partner. And Shield allows us to integrate into Metric so that we can watch transactions going through, compare variances based on their accounts, and just make sure everybody is doing things correctly. It also helps us understand licensing, insurance, and all aspects associated with cannabis. We have a designated department here at the bank that does a lot of vetting of transactions, and we work closely with our compliance partners here at the bank, as well as the other financial institutions out there. They do that as well. But one thing, again, that I'm going to bring up is that when we ask questions for things, it's so that we can make sure that everything is aligned correctly. We know the hurdles and hoops that everybody who goes into the licensing aspect have to go through, and we understand that you're supplying a lot of that information to the MRA, to the state, to make sure that they have all the information, and we in turn also have to collect that, because we would hate to have to, not be able to bank you because we were doing something incorrectly, and we really pride ourselves on doing that. When we developed our program, we looked at all of the aspects of doing that. We request documents from you that you would normally ask for whenever you're setting up a traditional bank account: operating agreements, copies of IDs, insurance, EIN letters, all of those types of traditional business documents. But we also have specific documents that let us know a little bit about your business, how it'll be running, if you'll be using certain online functions such as ACH and wires, bill pay functionality, remote deposit check scanners, everything you could possibly think of, so that we can offer you as traditional of a bank account as possible. Whenever I'm having those initial conversations, because I'm the gatekeeper of our program here at Dart Bank, everything goes through me. You can't get anywhere unless you talk to me. I think I'm a pretty real banker, so if you haven't talked to me yet, I would love to have a conversation to kind of go over everything with it. But we ask a lot of questions so that we can make sure we can not just support you now, but also in the future. And that goes, again, for other financial institutions. And it's so that we can create and paint that picture for our teams, the bank, our regulators, and the state, to make sure that everybody is saying that they're doing what they're actually doing. Some of the tips that I can give to a lot of the people getting into the industry and looking for a bank is don't leave it for the last minute, because opening up a cannabis bank account is not as easy as opening up a traditional bank account. There is extra pricing involved, and every financial institution is different depending on the monitoring and the size of them. And so don't be, discouraged if someone has higher pricing or whatnot. Just know that it's all for a reason, because we've had to put a lot of things in place in order to remain compliant. I suggest being upfront and honest with the bankers that you're talking to, and having those conversations ahead of time so that you can be prepared for whenever you do need to open up your bank account. Making sure that you know that everything that you talk about with your banker is very confidential and private. As bankers, we are held to the highest level of privacy standards. So if I have a conversation with someone in the industry, I don't share that with anybody, not outside of the bank. So not my husband, not my family members, anybody. So the information that you share with us is completely private. A lot of us do ask for non-disclosure agreements to be signed, so that our programs aren't shared with other people, or our pricing, because again, it's very much geared towards the type of businesses that we work with. And as everyone knows, every business is truly different. So one business that's a cultivation is going to be completely different from the rest, because one might be vertically integrated, another might have processing associated with it, might be in different areas, or might be becoming operational at different times. So everybody has a different story, and we love to learn about those stories. Some of the compliance practices that you can also do is whenever your bankers ask you to supply you with information such as financials, or to sign into portals to be able to have access to metric readings, we're not doing it again to make sure, or to make it harder for you. It's strictly from a compliance standpoint. Because like I had said earlier, there are people out there who will do things wrong and who will say that they are doing something and they actually aren't. So for us to be able to gather that information allows us to report that to our regulators if they have questions on it, so that we can continuously pass our audits. Like I said earlier, a lot of banks work very closely with their BSA, or Bank Secrecy Act areas, compliance partners, and they do a lot of monitoring of transactions. whenever you first get into the cannabis industry, you are made aware that SARS, suspicious activity reports, or CTRs, currency transaction reports, are filed on your behalf. And you really don't want to look at that in a negative way. It's a way of tracking throughout the industry. There's also, with the exchange of cash between businesses, 8,300 forms that you have to fill out whenever you're exchanging cash of over $10,000 amongst businesses. Those are sent to the IRS and required by the IRS. And we can't, again, look at that negatively as much as we sometimes want to, because we need to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Whenever your bankers ask you to, give more information regarding an entity that they're going to be opening, it's again not to interfere with it, but to make sure that we are doing everything the right way. We are a state chartered bank, so we support the state of Michigan right now. I don't know how many banks out there are supporting multiple states, but I know that some are looking at being able to support their customers in other states as well. The reason we want to be able to do that is to kind of deepen the relationships with our customers so that we're able to support them in more ways than one. And speaking to our program in general, we like to be able to get to know your program, where you're at now, as well as where you're going, so that whenever safe banking passes or legalization happens, you'll really want to stay with us, because we've proved along the way that our program is strong and that we truly care about our customers. In regards to the Safe Banking Act, I know I get a lot of questions on that. If that passes, it is going to help us a little bit, because what it's going to do is allow our regulators to give us more guidance in the industry. Right now, there's not a lot of guidance out there from our regulators, so we're kind of just going with the flow with it and what they suggest for us to do. So whenever that passes eventually, it's going to, again, give us more insight into what we can do to make this industry better and grow more. And whenever legalization happens, which, I mean, it could be anywhere from the next year to the next 2 years, it's going to make it so that with our program, we want our customers to stay with us. Because we were there from the beginning. We're actually the first bank to get into cannabis in the state of Michigan, which is a really great thing for us. And so we want our customers to be able to stay with us. But when legalization happens, what is that going to mean for everybody? Is it going to mean that it's going to be on the shelves of every Quality Dairy or 7-Eleven out there? We're not sure, but we expect more financial institutions to get involved. With safe banking, if I can go back to that, when safe banking happens, you can't really expect every financial institution to get into this industry. And you can't expect that to happen, because if you think of the bigger institutions out there, they're already under a lot of scrutiny because they cross state lines and because they offer a lot of services out there. So to add another risk associated area to their banking program would bring more to light. So you aren't going to really see a lot of other places, financial institutions come into the mix. You're going to more see the ones that are state chartered and the ones that are currently in it have a little bit more freedom with being able to support the industry. Whenever legalization happens, I can share that we have a succession plan. I'm sure that a lot of other financial institutions do as well. We are fully prepared for whenever that happens. We really thought of everything. When we first got into this industry, we really looked at the ways that we could make these accounts as traditional as possible for our customers and for those prospective customers. And when legalization happens, we'll be ready to do the things that we can't currently offer on our accounts for the customers that we have. Whenever that eventually happens, it will be an exciting time, I'm sure, for everybody, and it'll be a great thing. One of the great things about our program, too, is that we are lending in the cannabis industry. We only lend to our customers because we believe that is a fair thing. And for anyone who is familiar with banking or even not familiar with banking, the way that financial institutions work is whenever they lend out to customers, they're able to lend a certain amount of their assets out. So whenever we have our traditional side, we have a certain amount of assets that we lend out. And then when it comes to the cannabis side, we take a bucket from that bucket. We have two buckets that we work with, and one is projection based, which means not operational yet. And then we also have an operational bucket. And so the way that it works is if those buckets are full, we unfortunately aren't able to lend out, but we will require pretty much traditional commercial loan documents to be able to get that started. The pricing is a little bit higher than what you would see for traditional loans, but that's strictly because there's a bit more compliance associated with lending and banking in cannabis. So don't be alarmed with that, and just know that as times change, legalization and safe banking happens, things will change in the financial services industry as well. We've been lucky enough in this area to be able to lend out between $30 and $50 million to our customers in the area, which have really helped their businesses grow. And that's something that I don't think a lot of other financial institutions can offer to their businesses. So it's really special that Dart Bank is able to do that. See. If I were to say any tips and tricks for starting your bank account with a bank, I would say, again, be very honest and upfront from the start, and just know that we are here to support you. We wouldn't be in this industry if we didn't support it. When we got into this industry, we got support from our board of directors down to every single employee that we had. And whenever we decided we were going to get into this industry, we sought the guidance of a consultant. And we also went to every employee here at the bank and asked what their reservations were, because it was important for Dart Bank to be able to address those things and find out what people thought about that, because we truly care about all of our employees as well as the bank and our community in general. Any reservations anybody had were addressed. And again, I'm proud to say that cannabis is fully supported at Dart Bank, from our board of directors down to every single employee that we have. And I think that's really important for your program. We have a specific department that surrounds cannabis. So whenever our customers call, they're able to talk to people who know about the industry, who understand banking, and are able to support our customers. I know that more and more financial institutions that are getting involved in cannabis are trying to recreate that process of being able to do that. If you open it up to the entire bank, you're going to have people who might not understand some of the ways of cannabis. And I think over time, that's going to definitely change. I know we are trying to offer as much education to our employees as possible, helping to develop webinars and offering up for our employees to also attend webinars and social events that are directly related to the cannabis industry. And I think one of the most important things is being educated in this space. I think that there's a lot of falsities out there regarding this industry. I know that I took our board of directors on a couple of on-site visits, and they were blown away that the fact that these businesses are just incredible. You know, very smart people are working there. The amount of technology involved is incredible. And it's a whole education piece. Whatever people thought it was, it's not. And it feels really great to be able to take someone who thought one way to one of the businesses that is either growing or processing or even a store, and show them, this is traditional. This is going to be the norm. These people are smart, and it's not just a bunch of potheads working in a store or working in a building to do this. Growing is an art, and it's important to educate your financial institutions and your people on this industry. And I think the MICIA does a really great job of, lobbying on behalf of the industry and supporting people. I can't tell everybody enough how important it was for myself and Dart Bank to kind of collaborate with the MICIA and learn from them. I've created a great relationship with Robin Schneider, as well as the rest of the team over at the MICIA, so that I could be educated in this space. And I always suggest for everybody out there to reach out to the MICIA to get further education and knowledge in this area. Again, they're great advocates for you, and they want to be able to support you and normalize cannabis. And so if you're looking for a really great outlet to be able to learn from, I strongly think that, working with the MICIA, talking with your local municipalities if you aren't opted in to get in, and just educating yourself is a really, really important thing. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on this area or whatnot, but I'm very open for questions at a very high level to discuss things associated with the industry.
Perfect. So I'm actually not seeing any questions yet in the chat, but I will ask a couple. We have seen a lot of people who've, kind of switched over from, doing things you know, in their homes and their kitchens and things of that sort, and are now going through the licensing process. And they may have previously been paid through personal accounts and things of that sort. Can you just share just a little bit of intel if people are still operating in that manner, and kind of what they need to be working on?
Sure, absolutely. So I do talk to a lot of people who were previous caregivers or who were growing out of their houses and who are now looking to be licensed. They were utilizing either their personal bank accounts or a business account in an LLC that was not necessarily cannabis related or had a cannabis name. Sometimes, depending on your financial institution, they'll keep it and maybe turn a blind eye or just let you do it because of the relationship that you had. However, I can tell you that on a weekly basis, I receive calls from people frantic about being kicked out of their traditional banks. And that's because their banks are seeing that there's high volume transactions going on in their accounts. So those financial institutions that don't currently support cannabis are paying more attention to those large wires, those large ACHs, and the large dollars that are coming into or going out of the account. Whenever they notice those things, they are asking their customers to leave. And they're not just asking them to leave because of that LLC. They're also asking them to evacuate their personal accounts, their children's accounts, everything like that. So it's not just eliminating that cannabis relationship, it's the whole relationship because they don't want to take that risk. And whenever that happens, we're there to support them. And it's kind of a beautiful thing that we're able to do that and we're able to save people from being kicked out of their bank accounts. But I would strongly suggest that if you're even looking to get into being licensed and be a licensed entity in the state of Michigan, that you reach out to a financial institution to start the conversation about carrying it over, because you truly don't know at that time when you're going to be asked to leave your current financial institution because they're not cannabis supportive. As far, I wanted to touch on social equity programs. I know that a lot of our customers have social equity programs. In fact, a lot of our non-customers have social equity programs out there. I'm reading a lot in the news about how more and more companies are coming up with their own social equity programs out there, and I think it's a great thing. As far as what we do, we absolutely support the social equity program. I've had many conversations with separate municipalities regarding that throughout the state of Michigan. And while we don't directly support with like giving out loans or anything, we support from a standpoint of if there's a municipality out there that wants to start something or a group that wants to start something, we're more than happy to open up account, accept funds for that so that they can be able to distribute it out to the industry. We know how important not only the social equity program is, but also the Detroit Legacy program. We all know what's going on over in Detroit and how controversial it kind of is right now. And whenever it's ready to go, we're willing to support all of those legacy prospects out there, applicants out there in the industry. So we are fully in support of social equity throughout the area and our customers that are offering programs and willing to have conversations with people out there who want to be able to support that area. I've gotten a question about pricing regarding to accounts, and what I can tell you is that everything is different depending on which financial institution you work with. And I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Each business is different. And something that Dart Bank does specifically is we have very intimate conversations with our customers. I always do a one-on-one call with every person that reaches out to me, and I respond back very efficiently within 24 hours to them to schedule that call. And I learn a little bit about what they're doing now as well as where they're going, so that I can develop a pricing model that fits them. It doesn't just fit the industry. So you're going to see kind of a vast array of pricing out there. But what I can tell you that's special about our program is that we really listen to the people that we're talking with. And if you tell me that you have a cultivation and your cultivation isn't going to be operational for a year, 6 months, 2 years, but you want to look at starting banking now, we will actually look at reducing your pricing in more than half for you until you make your first dollar from cannabis, because we believe in being fair. Like I said, almost all financial institutions out there that are banking cannabis are going to have some sort of extra fee associated with it. And it's because there's so much compliance associated. My team is looking at every transaction, every hour, every day that's going through the account. And it's not meant to be a hassle. It's meant to protect everybody in this industry. I can share that one of our customers did have something go through their account that looked to be fraudulent. And because we were checking everything, we were able to save them from losing a lot of money in there. There are people out there that will take advantage of you, just like they would in traditional businesses, even more highly in this industry as well, because people are looking for clients or support in other places. And it's important for us to be able to spend that amount of time to be able to do that. We also have a function called Positive Pay. Positive Pay allows our customers to upload lists of checks that they've sent out so that they can make sure that they approve those ones that are going through, and can also check to make sure that nothing fraudulent is coming through. Were there any other questions that had come in by chance?
Yes. One question is just in regards to the funds that you were talking about as far as lending. They wanted to know if some of these funds are available for build outs and materials and supplies.
Perfect. Thank you. So in regards to our lending program, I can't speak specifically to other financial institutions and their lending programs, but the type of lending that we offer is based on a couple of different things. It's harder for us to do construction loans because of all the draws that are associated. Anybody who has been ever involved in commercial lending, in banking in general, knows that there are lots of steps that have to go forward with that. We are currently lending on owner-occupied commercial real estate and non-owner-occupied commercial real estate. So if somebody has a business or a building that they own, we can use that as collateral. And we really like to look at collateral-based lending. And the reasoning for that is because our CEO built our mortgage department from his basement with his couple of his friends many years ago, and he's really built it into a very successful operation. Whenever they joined Dart Bank, they were able to, be a really great competitor for all of the big lenders out there. And for him, what he sees as tangible is something that's actual physically out there. So an actual building. So it's much easier for us to be able to lend on that. However, we are always looking to grow and change our lending program. But at the current point, we are mostly looking at lending for owner-occupied commercial real estate and non-owner-occupied commercial real estate. If anybody was looking for other suggestions out there, I do know a couple of other businesses in the industry that offer funding in other ways that I always introduce my customers to. We know that we're not necessarily always the best fit for everybody, but we do know, and part of my job is to be able to point them in the right direction of people that can support them. I like to be able to be that sounding board for my customers and my non-customers to be able to find solutions for them, as I think it's important to be able to do that because this industry is very much gray, and you don't know who you can reach out to because there's not a lot of marketing out there. You won't see a ton of marketing out there from your financial institutions supporting cannabis because of the fact that we don't want to really throw it in our regulators' faces. It's a federally illegal industry, and we're federally regulated. So for us to be able to point people in other directions and make these relationships is very important to us.
Thank you. I haven't seen any more questions come through the chat yet. But just wondering, we have a lot of true small business owners. This may be their first entrepreneurial venture in some cases. And are there any sort of best practices that you may recommend? Just, I know I had to learn the hard way when I became an entrepreneur many years ago about, making sure that you're not crossing personal with business. I'm sure that's even more heightened in cannabis. If there's any recommendations on like record keeping and any kind of just recommendations from a business one-on-one perspective that you might be able to share with our viewers.
I think that's a great question. And I think one of the biggest things is finding someone at the start, either a consultant or an attorney in the industry who has been doing this. And they'll help you find people who can support you in many ways. You're going to really want to find a CPA that is educated in this industry because it is quite different from the traditional industry. So finding someone who is familiar with all of the audits that have to be conducted and the way to run your books. Also, starting early and finding cannabis friendly businesses to work with is so important. I know that whenever I started working in this industry, back in 2018, I had a lot of people say, oh, well, I have a CPA. I have someone who works with payroll that I've been using for years. And then come to find out, they actually don't support the cannabis industry. So you have to start all over. So putting yourself out there and making those connections with people is really important. I definitely pride myself on making the connections I've made so that I can introduce my customers and prospective customers to people in the industry who support cannabis and who have done a really good job with the current customers that I have. Referrals are oftentimes, first party referrals are oftentimes the best way that you can get business to other people, those relationships that you've built. But I definitely think, creating a business plan first and foremost is very important. Creating projections based on what you believe you're going to be able to do in the industry and working out how much it's going to cost to do that. Making sure that whenever you're looking for investors in the industry, that you're really doing your due diligence and interviewing them to make sure that they have your best interests in mind. There are a lot of conferences that you can attend that investors go to. Also, there's word of mouth where you can hear about them and be introduced to third parties. But it's just important to make the right connections and build the right partnerships with people. Because again, there are people out there that will take advantage, or if you don't create a contract with an investor, they could possibly do something or try and step over a boundary for you. So it's important to just be upfront and honest. Educate yourself early on in the industry. And if you're a very new entrepreneur, just learning about the industry first and educating yourself is so very important in making sure that you are finding cannabis-friendly people to work with. And again, the MICA is a really great resource for it. I'm not being paid to say this. It's nothing crazy. I truly believe in the MICA, and I think that they do a great job and are very educated in pointing people in the right direction. And so should other people in the industry like myself, your consultants and CPAs out there, and your attorneys. It's just very important.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I am looking right now in the comment section,
Yeah,
and
the last thing is just as a reminder, yes, Nicole is with Dart Bank.
I am with Dart Bank. I'm a vice president. I'm the treasury management officer here. And if you need to contact me, my email address is nperry@dartbank.com. And my direct line is 517-883-9260. And I'm very responsive to all of the people that reach out to me. I'll reach out within 24 hours to you if you email me or call me. The best way to reach me is honestly through email because of the high demand. That way we can get something set on the calendar. But if you do call me and I don't answer right away, it's just because I am on another call, but I always call back my customers and potential customers.
I think that's it. Isaiah, you want to wrap us up?
yeah, I definitely can. Just want to say thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Tatiana. Next week, we can go into that June 28th. We have raising capital. on the calendar. Let's see. Yes, pitching your business and raising capital. Thank you for the screen share. And we will see you guys next Monday at 4 o'clock.